All right, on 8.3, which starts on page 311, just so that you guys know where we're at, we're on page 311, on section 8.3. It says, for this part now we're going to talk about installment loans. Installment loans, again, are things like houses, cars, whatnot like that, that are over, you have a monthly payment. When you obtain an installment loan, you must pay finance charges for the use of the money. You repay the loan in equal monthly payments over a specified period of time. For instance, houses could be anywhere from, I've seen 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and 30 years is usually their typical amounts. Car loans could be anywhere from 3 years, 4 years, 5, 6, 7 years. Part of each of the payments pays the interest on the loan's unpaid balance. So what happens is that let's say you have a house payment of $1,200. $1,200 does not go all towards your loan. About $300 of that or so goes to interest. Another half of that goes to what they call an escrow account, and then the other half finally goes to your principal, okay, which pays down your loan. Huh?
What about things like offshore accounts?
Don't know about those. Okay, the remaining part of the payment is used to reduce the balance of the loan principal. The amount of each monthly payment depends on the amount financed, the number of payments, and the annual percentage rate, or also known as APR. The APR is an index showing the cost of borrowing money on a yearly basis expressed as a percent. You will need to refer to the monthly payment of an installment loan of a $100 table on page A13. So we are going to use a table for this stuff today on page A13. And here are your formulas for this particular section. To figure out the monthly payment, you take the amount of the loan divided by $100. And then you multiply that by monthly payment, $400. $400 loan. This part right here means table. You are going to be able to find that number from the table. So what we do is we take the amount of the loan. Let's say we borrowed $20,000 for a car, right? 20,000 divided by 100 times by whatever that number is from the table. That will establish what your monthly payment is going to be. Okay? And I'll show you how to use the chart here in a second. Then after that, the next formula that we have is total amount repaid. And in order to do that, you take the number of payments. So for instance, if I have, and I had math apps do this, where if I bought a house and I told them that they were getting a 30-year mortgage, 30 times 12 is 360 payments. Okay? Or if you buy a car and you finance it for 5 years, that's 12 times 5, or you make 60 payments. Okay? So keep that in mind when it's talking about the number of payments. Multiplied by monthly payment. Whatever that was we found in the last part. Then as far as the finance charge, how much you get billed for. So for instance, on some of my loans right now, when I first financed my house, it was $150,000, I think, is what we borrowed. By the time we get done with it after 30 years, I think we were supposed to pay on upwards of $400,000 total because of finance charges and everything else. Okay? Now, since then, interest rates dropped. So what I did is I refinanced my house. It actually dropped off. It made my payment go a little bit lower, and then also dropped off 5 years off my payment. So now I'm under 20 years now left on my house, instead of 25, 20 or so years. So anyway, In order to find the finance charge, what you do is you take the total amount repaid minus the amount financed. So on the top of page 312 is the first problem, and it says, Ingrid Nielsen purchased a $4,000 gazebo for her garden. The down payment is 20%, and the installment loan has an APR of 10% for 36 months. So, number one, first thing that they want you to do is they want you to find the down payment. This was what we did on Tuesday. How do you find the down payment again if it gives you 20%? You multiply the original cost by 20%. How much was the original cost of the gazebo? $4,000. So 4,000 times 20% equals how much money do we have to put down? 800. So part A wanted you to tell me $800. Part B says, how much is being financed? So as far as the finance goes, if I make a down payment, what does that do to my original principal? Does it add to it or subtract from it?
Subtract.
Right. So I take 4,000 minus 800, and how much am I financing total? What's 4,000 minus 800?
3,200.
Huh?
3,200.
3,200. That is how much I am financing. Now, that part of the problem, just so that you guys know, is exactly what you guys did on Tuesday. Okay, so that part of it was everything from what we did on Tuesday. Now, for part C, here's where they want you to find the monthly payment. I'm going to abbreviate that as MP, just so that you guys know. And the way that you figure out the monthly payment again is you take the amount financed, $3,200, divided by 100, and then you times it by a number in the chart. Remember the number in the chart is on page A13. So when I go back to A13, it is the bottom chart on A13. There's two charts on A13. One of them's for a monthly payment on a $1,000 loan, and the one on the bottom is the monthly installment for a $100 loan, which is the one we're using. So when it says term in months, it says Ingrid was going to pay 36 months. So I go down to the row that says 36, and I go over to 10. And what is my multiplying number? What number did I find in my chart? 3.23. 3.23. So here's how you accomplish this. I would take 3,200 divided by 100, which when you divide by powers of 10 like that, all you have to do is chop off 0 for 0. So I end up with 32 times 3.23. What is 32 times 3.23? What is 32 times 3.23? Because remember the formula said this, Colin? It said how much finance divided by 100. So I divided that out times by the number from the chart. So what do I get? Say it again. $103.36. That is my monthly payment that I need to have in order for Ingrid to have her gazebo. Okay? Then it goes on to say part D, it wants you to figure out the total repaid. And in order to figure out the total repaid, you take the number that Brian just told us, 103.36, and multiply it by how many months you plan on paying for that, which Ingrid's paying it over 36 months, which is 3 years. What is 103.36 times 36? What is 103 and 36 cents times 36? $103.36. 3,720 and how many cents?
96.
And 96 cents. Good. That's how much we paid total. Okay. Then for part E, it wanted you to figure out the finance charge, which I'm going to abbreviate that as FC. In order to figure out the finance charge, what you did is you took 37.20 and 96 cents and you subtracted out how much you financed, not how much you started with, because the number you started with was obviously higher than how much you actually repaid. So what is 37.20 and 96 cents minus 3,200?
Is this what you did on Tuesday?
$520.96. Absolutely. Nice job. Okay. So these problems, just so that you guys know, there's a lot of pieces of information there. There's 5 on just that one problem alone. So for that particular thing, then just so that we know, that's what it's going to entail for some of these where you're going to have to do quite a bit of work just to get your answer. Part A and Part B was what we did on Tuesday. So that's nothing new there. Part C, D, and E, that is our new stuff. So finding the monthly payment, we take how much we finance, divided by 100, times by the number from the chart. Then we take that answer that Brian gave us in this problem, times it by how many months, that gives us how much we repaid total. And then we take the how much we repaid minus how much we financed to give us, for Ingrid's gazebo, it was $520.96 that she had to pay over and above what she financed in order to have her gazebo. Okay? My son actually was dealing with this the other day where he actually saw one of those commercials that said, get an Xbox One for as low as $19 a week on one of those things that you could get it for. Okay? But what they don't tell you is that places like that have you doing it for a whole year. 19 times 52 is a whole heck of a lot more than just saving up your money and buying it for $250. Okay? So I had to have a little talk with him about that. And the same thing here. If you really wanted the gazebo that bad, you could save yourself $521 almost by just saving the money yourself. Right? So just as a whatever. Okay? Now, when you skip over to the next page, on 314, on page 314, just so that you guys know, 3 through 6 is about the same thing we just got done doing there. Part A wants you to tell me the table value, which means you just look up the number from the table and see what it is. Then as far as finding the monthly payment, total repaid, and finance charge, that's what we did for C, D, and E. On 7 and 8, it says, determine the monthly payment and the finance charge. So you'll have to do the same thing we just did there. On 9 through 12, it says, determine the down payment, amount of loan, monthly payment, and finance charge. So you'll have to do some stuff there. Okay? Are you guys okay with this, or would you like me to do another one? Do another one? Okay, Colin, pick a number from 9 through 16.
Can you do one on the chart?
Can, but those don't have words. I am. 14? Alright, 14 says, Jill Pa obtained a $1,450 installment loan to pay for a new laptop computer for her classwork. She agreed to repay the loan in 18 monthly payments of an APR of 8%. What is the finance charge? So unfortunately, Colin, for the one that you asked for, we actually have to go through all that stuff in order just to get the finance charge, right? Did Jill have to make a down payment?
No.
No. So how much did she finance?
Send it to me on something.
How much was the computer for?
1,415?
1,450?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So as far as that goes, we did not have a down payment. So how much she financed was the full amount, 1,450. So in that formula for the monthly payment, I divide it by 100, and then I times it by a number from the table. So when I go back to page A13, for on 14 it says 8% for 18 months. So 18 months is the third row down. 8% is 5.91. That's what I got, right? Matt, you're looking at it. Is it 5.91? 18 and 8? It's 18 months for the term, and it's 8%. 5.91? So 5.91 goes here. So I don't have a calculator on me, so this is up to you guys now. What is 1,450 divided by 100? 14.5. And then that number times 5.91. What's my monthly payment? 85.70. Okay. Now I take the 85.70 that I got for the monthly payment and I times it by 18. Why am I multiplying it by 18? Because Jill took out the loan for 18 months. So what is $85.70 times 18? What is 85.70 times 18? 15.78. Did anybody else get that? Yeah, what? 13 point what? So 15, how much? 0.6. Okay. So that's how much we actually, or Jill actually repaid. As far as the finance charge then, if I subtract that by how much she initially borrowed, I got $92.60. Is that what you guys got? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah? Okay, now, for that particular problem on number 14 that Colin picked, this is the part that it was just asking you for. Now, Brian asked about one of the chart numbers, and honestly, Brian, here's what the chart would have been. This part here, this was part A. That part where it wanted you to tell me what was the number from the chart. Part B was you finding this part right here. Part C was how much you repaid, and part D was the finance charge. Okay, so for all those chart ones for 3 through 6, This is part A, which we got from the table in the back. Part B was after you put it through the formula, that's your monthly payment. Part C is how much you repaid total, and part D is what was the finance structure. So me doing 14 was like doing the chart, only I didn't have it in chart format. What do you guys think? So here's what I want you guys to do. It started on page 312, and we're going to go to 314. We'll do 1. And then we'll go like this. I don't want to give you all of them today. And then we'll go 2 to 16 evens.